Welcome to Whole CEO with Lisa G. I'm the best-selling author of The Boss Weight Loss. I'm bringing you the top tips to be unstoppable. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to actually pull up a chair with today's top experts in mindset, weight loss, business, and more. Learn our top tips so that you can have more energy, be fit and resilient, feel unstoppable, unshakable, and unbreakable. Challenge is what helps us grow. Your challenges are your secrets to success. I'm Lisa G. The Power to Pivot series is all about grit, resiliency, and persistence. I'm bringing on some special guests to inspire you in the series. When you have grit, you're able to stay optimistic, determined, despite adversity. And because the challenge is what helps you grow, you're stronger than and more resilient leaders. Like anything else, learning to face adversity with courage, full speed ahead takes practice. Before I jump in with my guests, I'm going to give you 5 hacks to power up your resilience and thrive. Leave a 1 if you're here live, or a 2 if you're catching me on the replay. Here we go. Hack number 1, check your responses. How you respond when challenges come up has an effect on how quickly you can conquer the challenges. Try waiting a few minutes or seconds before you respond rather than react. Let me know in the comments if you do this. That's number 1. Here's number 2. This helps me. Replay the good things for happiness hack. Spend 2 minutes replaying something good that happened before you go to bed or first thing in the morning. I do this after my meditation. Let me know if you do it too. Hack number 3. Lean into this opportunity to reinvent yourself. I love this chance to reinvent and rebrand. Almost all of you are undergoing some form of reinvention, so we're all in it together. Let me know if you're into reinvention like me. To be unstoppable, decide what you want to be, visualize it, commit to your vision, and take action daily. That's hack number 3. Hack number 4 is get used to doing hard things. To embrace challenge, start today with small hard things like making a healthier food choice or signing up to do a challenging workout. Challenge yourself to do hard things to build your resiliency muscle. This makes it easier to do bigger hard things. The more you practice being uncomfortable, the more comfortable you'll be in times of discomfort. That's number 4. Here's number 5. I saved my favorite one for last before I bring on my special guests. Hack number 5 to help you be unstoppable, resilient, and gritty is meditation. It strengthens your grit, focuses your mind so that you can eliminate fear, instill confidence, crank up your motivation. Meditation is my favorite mental toughness upgrade, part of my morning ritual. Studies prove that meditation fortifies the brain's grit center. This is a time to focus on what you do want. The point of a morning routine is to feel courageous, bold, and ready to take the rest of the day on. Evan Carmichael. Let me bring on my first guest and welcome everybody. Respond, don't react. I love it, Steve. So true. I'm bringing on my first guest, Dr. Matthew Michaels. Oh, there he is with the dog. Welcome.
Yeah,
I
unfortunately, my
can,
dogs will be barking for a little while here. It's kind of what they do.
well, let me introduce you and we can talk about your special stuff. Dr. Matthew Michaels was told he had only a short time to live on this earth, but something happened. He's lived more than 20 years after that diagnosis. His book, Take Control of Your Back Pain, is a bestseller. Dr. Michaels is now serving as Chief Medical Officer of Panoxyl, working full time in his intervention pain practice. Welcome, Dr. Michaels. How can we
Thank you,
pivot?
Lisa. Nice to be here.
Nice to have you.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you and the dog.
Okay, great. How are you tonight?
I'm well, and yourself?
Excellent. Thank you very much. So, would you like me to just kind of launch into the history?
I love your story. I love everything that you're up to in the world. We can talk about, you know what I really like that we talked about on the podcast was the power of the environment on how your genes are expressed. Do you want to talk about your story and then perhaps how we can influence how our genes are expressed?
Sure, absolutely. So, in 2000, roughly, I became severely ill. I developed some sort of an autoimmune disease that was attacking my nervous system. It wasn't MS, it was kind of similar, but it wasn't. It was not really in that vein at all. In fact, it was essentially undiagnosable for quite some time. My doctors became pretty much clueless, and I had to take over the show and figure out how to treat myself. That involved going to the hospital and getting my own medical records and reading through my own slides of pathology and deciding that what I had was an autoimmune disease, even though I had been told that I had cancer and I was likely to be dead within 6 months.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
That was on April 18th of 1999. I think they missed on that one,
You're
given the
still
year today.
here. I love it.
And so ultimately, what happened is I ended up having chemotherapy, which shut the disease down. That kept coming back though, and so ultimately ended up having a bone marrow transplant in July of 2002. That pretty much stopped the disease dead in its tracks. But then, having had a nervous system disease as a practicing medical doctor, my feeling was that I had to prove to myself that I was still all there. And so I retook my medical boards, passed them easily, started volunteering as a doctor to get back into working, and ultimately ended up back in the saddle doing all the things that I love to do. So that was a situation where don't let your doctors tell you what's going on when it doesn't make sense. Look deeper. Always look for more information. Read the information yourself. Even if you're not a doctor, you can still get information from your medical chart that might help you decide what's going on when it just doesn't make sense what your doctor is telling you. The more you understand about these problems, the better you're going to do overall. That really is an important thing to understand. And so the idea there is to feel empowered about asking questions constantly. Now, of course, if your doctor is doing a great job and everything makes sense and you're getting better, you don't need to worry about it. But if you're not, take steps to understand better what exactly is going on. That experience for me, going from the depths of despair, being told I'd be dead within 6 months, thinking I wouldn't see my kids graduate from elementary school, let alone college or get married, was devastating. And it really took me into the depths of despair for years. I was sick for a very long time. And rebuilding was a pretty long, laborious process of getting my physical fitness back. After the transplant, I couldn't walk more than a couple hundred yards without somebody helping me. And so ultimately, I ended up, I started out as a competitive triathlete back in the 1990s. Nothing great, but I was getting faster, getting up to the point of finishing near top 10 in my age group. I feel like that saved my life. And so the moment I started feeling better, I went back to that. I went back to racing, really not racing, just kind of participating at that point because I'd been so ill that I got a lot slower. But that allowed me to rebuild physically, mentally, discipline wise, with the challenge that we like to talk about. Ultimately, I decided that I needed to do Ironman 10 years after my transplant. And so that happened in November of 2012. I did Ironman Arizona. Completed that, not a great time, but not a bad time. And that was kind of a seminal moment for me in terms of my growth in general. Over the course of the years, I'd also been struggling with back pain since I was 12 years old. I've had back pain. I've been offered a fusion at L5S1, but I knew that from my experience with those fusions, my patients had not usually done terribly well with them. I decided I need to have a different way to treat this problem. And so looking at the best physical therapy out there for back pain, which in my opinion is McKenzie therapy, I decided that I needed to take McKenzie therapy, which would pretty much always help my patients, but then they'd come back and say, hey doc, the moment I stopped doing this, got out of therapy, your shot helped me a lot, but 2 weeks later, the pain came back. I needed to help the patient understand why they keep re-injuring themselves, why it is that something as simple as standing at the sink, bending over to wash the dishes can make your back blow up. And those of you who have chronic back pain understand that, yes, it does kind of blow up. It gets to the point where you can barely breathe, barely get off the ground, and you kind of feel like you're paralyzed. So ultimately, the more you can do about that, the more you can really work through understanding the actual problem, why it is, what's going on in your back that makes your back feel like that just from bending over to wash the dishes, the better you're going to do. You can change the way you do things and change your entire future with back pain. You can change back there enough to allow it to actually heal so you can get stronger and get to the point where back pain is really just a little bit of a nuisance in your life, but really not the ruling factor. That also relates to the notion of challenge. In this process of developing these ideas about how to manage back pain appropriately, I came to the conclusion with the tightness that develops from sciatic nerve pain, etc., that a lot of what we struggle with is based on lifetime behaviors. The way we sit still doing nothing all day long, and it's not any single person out there or you or me, it's every one of us. Every single one of us lives the modern lifestyle, which is mostly sitting. And our bodies are adapting at all times. We adapt to sitting constantly, which means our groins are getting tight, our hamstrings are getting tight, our backs are getting tight, even our throats from leaning forward get tight.
If you look up at the ceiling, right? Pardon? Sitting is the new smoking.
It is indeed. And but there's a lot of things that contribute to that, and understanding the notion of adaptation. Think about it this way. Your body can and will adapt to whatever you do most of the time. And if you mostly sit, your body's going to adapt to sitting and really not much of anything else. That's where the idea of challenge comes in. Now, in my opinion, challenge does not have to be a no pain, no gain workout. It really doesn't have to be, because a lot of people will hate that and never go back. Right. So you have to find a range of working out where you really feel the stress, you feel the strain, but it's okay. You can be calm with it. You cannot react to the strain that you're feeling, so that you can get the benefits without injuring yourself and without making yourself miserable. Because again, if you make yourself miserable, you're not likely to do it again. There's not a lot of people out there who really enjoy a hard workout, enjoy the pain and the sweat of a hard workout. And you really don't have to. You just, again, you have to not sit all the time.
You gotta move.
Yeah. Walk, move, stretch. Stretching can't be every now and then. It has to be something done consistently day by day to really make a change in your body. Because again, our connective tissue, our tendons, our ligaments, our joint capsules, our nerves, and all the other connective tissue in there, they don't really stretch at all, but they constantly adapt. So if they never have tension through them, they constantly get shorter. When you put tension through your body, the body then begins to adapt to that. And that's a physiologic process where the cells within your connective tissue literally wake up and remodel the tissue so that it's longer and more capable of handling the range of motion that you want it to be able to do. But if you never reach over your head, all the structures that allow that, the ligaments in the bottom of your shoulder get tighter and tighter and tighter until eventually you can't do that.
Right. We don't want that, you guys. Listen to the doctor here. Dr. Michaels is talking about back pain. People are saying that your explanation is so bang on, and they agree that you need to enjoy your movement. So everybody's really enjoying this. And I don't want to interrupt you. I just wanted to share the comments in case you couldn't see them.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that very much so. But that's pretty much what my book, Take Control of Your Back Pain, is all about. It includes also the ways that you can stretch your nervous system, because in my opinion, a lot of the pain that we experience in our back and in our neck and our heads, headaches, and foot pain even, is not because of a foot problem. It's because of tension in the nervous system. Releasing that tension involves a very specific type of stretching that's all explained in my book. And there are yoga poses that fit this perfectly. But again, the idea there with yoga is that far too many people practice yoga in a way that they feel like they're competitive, that they want to look a certain way in a pose, which is a huge mistake.
I used to do that before the pandemic.
Yoga has absolutely nothing to do with what you look like while you're doing it. It has everything to do with how you feel while you're practicing, that you feel the tension, but at a level where you're not going to react to the tension, where you can just allow your body to experience that expansion, so that over time, once again, your body can grow and adapt to what you're trying to make it do. So patience and persistence are critical. It's not about a hard workout every now and then. You absolutely cannot make up for a week of laziness with one hard workout. It will not work that way. In fact, you'll probably
it's a daily practice, or else people are saying you get atrophy. That's another good comment.
it's not just atrophy. Again, over that course of that week, you're adapting. You're adapting to what you've
Yeah.
been doing, which is sitting at a desk, sitting, watching TV,
That's why
basically
I'm
doing
standing
nothing.
here, because I do it too. It's like I got to be conscious of that.
Absolutely. And it's just such an important thing to recognize. It's probably more important to go for a vigorous walk every day than it is to go for a short run. Now, we all talk about the value of high intensity intervals, and there can be value there, but again, only if you can enjoy them well enough to keep on doing them.
Right.
I want to give people permission to recognize that if you're not a crazy athlete, if you're not like me and you don't love an intense P90X workout, that's okay. You don't have to be. You really don't. But you also can't be passive. Never, ever be passive. Never let life go by. Because even if life is easy today, something's coming at you. It just is. And the more you do now while you're feeling good, the more resilient you're going to be when the time comes.
I have another question for you too, from the audience. Tommaso wants to know, what do you think about foam rolling?
I think foam rolling is a good thing. It depends on the individual and whether or not you want to take the time for that. After a hard workout, you can definitely express some of the lactic acid out of your muscle. It is a good thing to do, but I don't personally feel like it's necessary for me. I feel like there are certain very specific stretches that I need to do to control my back pain and my neck pain.
Right.
Simple range of motion exercises for the shoulder can be super valuable as well.
Like just rolling the shoulders around
More
helps
than
if
that.
you've
So what
been
I teach my
sitting.
patients with chronic back pain, and for some of them, it's worked well enough that they've gotten off narcotics for shoulder pain.
Oh my
Just
gosh.
simply reach overhead, put your hands behind your head, reach out for a hug, give yourself a hug, and then slide your thumbs up between your shoulder blades like that.
Oh, that's
That
easier said than done.
but you did it. That simple activity, it basically takes your shoulders through all their range of motion that they should be able to do. Tugging and pulling on the ligaments in a way that's going to help them and not hurt them.
Yes.
It also circulates joint fluid through the joints so that you wash out all the joint fluid that's been sitting there passively because you're not moving. Remember, our cartilage in our joints does not have its own circulation. A lot of the nourishment to the cartilage cells comes from the joint fluid. But if you don't move, the joint fluid just sits there, gets loaded with waste products, and deprived of nutrition so that the cells starve. So again, your joints have to move in order for your cartilage cells to survive. And again, simple range of motion. It does not have to be crazy. You don't have to go bonkers with your exercise. Anybody who says it's got to be no pain or there's no gain is just plain wrong, in my opinion.
I agree so much. And my last question for you is just what I asked you about on our podcast. I find so interesting about people will say they blame their genetics, and I always have big hips, or I can't do that because my mom never did that.
Sure.
And I don't come from that. So can you explain to our audience a little bit how they have the power to change how their genes are expressed?
No question about it. So you have to think about two different notions, which one is genetics and the other is epigenetics or on genetics.
Right.
So your lifestyle has an impact on your genes. So the genes literally, quite literally turn on and turn off. So that your ability to generate muscle is going to be largely determined by how well you use the genes in your system that allow you to develop muscle. If you never exercise, a lot of those muscle building genes are turned off. If you exercise consistently, they're going to turn on and you're going to have more ability to actually express the genes the way you want them to. Think of your genetic blueprint as a blueprint of a house that has not been built. What you are doing throughout life is making modifications to that blueprint so that as you're building your house, and you're building your house throughout life, you're not done when you're 20, you're done when it's over, when you're dead. So always throughout life, the more you do, the better your nutrition is, the better you're using things like supplements, like our supplement Panoxol, which has a huge impact on cardiovascular health. Panoxol will have an impact on your health and on your vasculature in a way that can promote a healthier blood pressure, healthier cholesterol levels. It can help you exercise in a way that's more meaningful and easier for you. I strongly encourage you to pursue that kind of thing specifically to understand that everything you do is going to turn on genes and turn off genes in a way that can be very powerful. And only you can do that. And please don't feel like you're a victim of your genetics. Your genetics are who you are, but they are not a one-way street. You interact with your genetics throughout your lifetime.
I love that. So we can be unstoppable, taking control of our nutrition and exercise, not going crazy trying to run a marathon and eat kale every day, but just small steps to just make sure that they can live not only longer, but healthier and have a better quality of life, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. Be wise, be mobile, keep moving, never be passive, always take action. These are really critically important things. The future is in your hands, really.
Can you touch on, I have one more question from the audience before I let you go. Immune system.
Absolutely. So for the immune system, some of the critical aspects of immune maintenance are getting regular exercise in a way that helps you control your stress. You mentioned meditation. Meditation can be very powerful for controlling stress.
I
And we
love
know
it.
that when you
Yeah.
have a stress response, your body releases cortisol. Cortisol suppresses your immune system. Stress suppresses your immune system. Lack of sleep. Sleep is critical. No matter how much you think you only need X amount of sleep, the amount
Right.
of sleep that virtually every person needs is roughly 8 hours. That might be 7 hours for some, might be 9 hours for others, but it's not 5 hours. It's not 4 hours. The process of sleep washes your brain essentially. It's like your brain taking a shower while you're asleep. It's critically important, and it will have an impact on your immunity. Vitamin D is very potent as well. We know that you're supposed to get vitamin D from the sun, and in an ideal world, we'd get 90% of our vitamin D from the sun. We'd get 10% from our food, and that's it. Then you're complete. But it just doesn't work that way for most people. We're all afraid of the sun now because of the risk of skin cancer, which is not trivial. It's a real
Right.
risk.
It's real.
So
Yeah.
we don't get out in the sun anywhere near as we need to, near as much as we need to. We also don't eat the right foods to get the vitamin D that we need to, because most of us are very passive about our food choices as well. We eat what's easy to eat as opposed to being thoughtful about my next meal should be a spinach, egg white, and feta cheese omelet or something like that. So you're going to take the steps, make sure you have that stuff in your house, and you're not just going to eat whatever's there, some kind of pasteurized processed food that won't be helpful for you at all.
I love that. So we have to take our immune system, our health seriously. If the pandemic has shown a light on anything whatsoever, your health is your wealth. You have no wealth without health. You're a living proof. So thank you so much for sharing all your wisdom with us. Where can people find you, Dr. Michaels?
The easiest place to find me now is on LinkedIn. Matthew Michaels, MD. You can find me there. My book is on Amazon. Take control of your back pain and learn how to stop hurting yourself. It's really what it's all about. Once you understand your pain, you'll understand how the way you move causes re-injury every single day.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate your taking the time.
My
You and your
pleasure. Thank you for
dog.
having me on, Lisa.
A pleasure. Bye.
Bye.
I got another guest. This is so exciting. I have two people here today. I'm just learning this StreamYard technology. Last week I wasn't so sure about it, but Sherry, my awesome friend, has she offered to come in behind the scenes and make sure that I was up and running. So Sherry, why don't you introduce yourself to my audience?
Well, I will do that, but I'm first going to tell you something shocking that you and I did not talk about that is amazing. So I didn't know him personally, right?
Right. Dr. Michaels.
That is the book that I read after I had my semi-accident
Oh
with
my
my
God.
back.
I didn't know you
And
read his book.
yes, and I had been through $100,000 worth of medical care, including suggested maybe fusions and whatever, that decided it was just completely inoperable and the injections didn't work for me and everything. And I got his book and
That's
was like,
giving me
I
the
need,
goosebumps right now.
right. I didn't know this. Like you didn't, I didn't know who it was coming on. Right. And so talk about pivot, right? I was at the place where I was absolutely devastated just 2 years ago
Oh my
after the
gosh.
semi-accident in 2016, where they'd gone through every medical thing and just decided there's nothing more we can do for you. And that was a lot of also my move to Florida, right? It's warm here and all that stuff. But it was reading his book after being devastated of just, there's nothing else we can do for you, that I was like, oh, I'm not accepting this. I am
There
not
are
accepting this.
there are
Right?
no coincidences. That's like spooky. It's like totally giving me the chills that you came on after him. And
Yes.
we have a lot of people saying hi to you already.
Hello.
LinkedIn user is saying hi, and Jamie says hi. And why don't you tell our audience just a little bit about yourself and your
Yes.
power to pivot and all the pivots you've had to make?
All right. So wonderful to meet you all. If I don't already know you on LinkedIn, I appreciate being with Lisa. She and I do all kinds of different things together, whether it has to do with fitness or LinkedIn or a lot of different content. She and I both are strong women on platforms that sometimes aren't easy to women, but we're still out here because we want to be leaders, right?
Right.
I have a gritty background and a pivot background that would impress a lot of people. And at the time I was going through it, I wished I hadn't, right? So my real background, I will be 54 very quickly. I'll be 54 in December.
Happy
But-
almost birthday. I'm older than you still, so there's life after 52.
You're teaching me that. It's all good. But I really was born into trailer park. So, and I moved up to a public housing project. So my life actually to start was incredibly difficult, poverty level, raised in poverty level. My parents were married, but unfortunately had to get divorced because of medical conditions when I was 2, because my dad was not well. And I was just raised in an incredibly challenged situation. I can tell the story now, 54 years later,
Oh my
of like
gosh.
all the pivot and gritty times. Like talk about, I was failed first grade because I had so much abuse at home. I couldn't sit still or think or anything. And so I became a master's level teacher. Like who does that after they fail first grade, right? I am somebody who I worked all the way through high school, 30 some hours a week, in college, which I never thought I would go. And I went with $200 to my name and worked 3 jobs all the way through to be able to get myself this opportunity, right?
Wow.
Became a teacher, got married, and my greatest treasure on this earth, right, is my 3 children that I only wanted to be a mom. It was like my biggest, best thing. I have enjoyed that tremendously, and I'm super thankful. A lot of my background was 48 years of domestic violence, unfortunately. And
my
so I left 48, right? And I'll be 54. So that's how long I've been domestic abuse free. And sadly, in my 50s, women started being bullying to me, which I didn't
Oh, I
used to
know.
have that.
On
It's like
social
crazy.
media, right? The
Yeah.
keyboard warriors are
Yeah.
just fearless, hiding behind their keyboards.
It's unreal. But anyway, we keep doing our thing, right? However, really my background is, I was a high school teacher. I got laid off in teaching in 2003 and was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do with myself? We had just built our dream house. My kids were little, so they were 4 and under. And I started with my 2-year-old sleeping under my desk while I tried to get my stuff done, or I'd take the other 2 to school and she'd run on the backside, we called it, where like I'd give her a happy meal, which I know is not good nutrition, but like, shh, just be quiet. Like we got to go into Home Depot. We got to do this. We got to, right? And that girl's turning 21 this month. So my
Oh my
baby's turning
gosh.
21. So I have now a daughter who will be finishing her doctor of pharmacy. She is going to do perhaps 2 more years even to do half pay to be able to become a pediatric oncology pharmacist.
Wow.
My son just graduated in commercial real estate and development and is an entrepreneur at heart, and also working a commercial job in real estate, which is amazing. And my youngest, that 21-year-old almost, is going to be a criminal justice lawyer. So we will see what happens, right? And then I've moved on to dual states in the last 3 years. So I am in Wisconsin. I'm also in Florida. I originally came down here to do real estate, but what's happened, which is exciting in the pivot of the gritty sweat, I sweat all the time, right?
Right.
Is I do those things, but I've also moved into global investments and things that I never thought I would have an opportunity to, because I network and I've learned a lot and I know a lot about marketing and all these kind of things. So as of today, I have NDAs, so non-disclosure agreements, with several that I couldn't even imagine these topics in
Wow.
my life.
Wow.
And these are
I
all
love it.
within the last year. And it's been, it was a big move for us to be away from my children, because we're Midwest, where you don't move away and you stay together. But we just had such an amazing opportunity that has been unbelievable, so.
You're making it rain. This is why you're the grit queen. Like your story, if that can inspire you guys just to keep going no matter what.
You have to.
Sherry,
We have to.
You're so awesome. Joe is saying, and he ordered the book too.
The book is great.
For
It was
how you
hugely.
turned your life around. I mean, people are just, they're dumbfounded. I just love
Oh.
all you're up to in the world. Do you have advice on how people can pivot the way that you've been such a rock?
Yeah. So the biggest thing I would say that it took me a very long time to learn was, obviously so much of my life was distracted from the age of 5 years old all the way through high school. All I kept thinking about while I was being raised, which I really had not parents, was how do I get as far away from here as I can? That was my drive the whole time I was growing up, of like, my God, I want to be a million miles from where I started, right? So that was my focus all the time of just how do I make a different decision? How do I, and I ended up to be the black sheep in my family, honestly, because I was the one that was going to challenge, that I was going to be that rebel for both good and like, we're done with this. I want to break the cycle. That was a lot of it for
I
me,
love
right?
that. How
I
important
was
is that? Never quit, Joe,
super.
and saying,
Yeah, absolutely. But I'll tell you, after all the different topics we've talked about a little bit, so much of it for me was if I would have understood the pivot for me at the top in all categories we just mentioned is when I realized my power is to take all of my energy, all of my attention, all of my emotions, and take them away from reacting and responding and dealing with all the junk and take it 100% this way. And girl, you can only go forward. That's it. Like it's forward. So every single time
always forward. I
we'll
love
talk
that
about
advice.
Matthew talking about the neural pathways, right? That was huge to me to retrain myself, particularly out of domestic violence, because by the time you've been in that for 48 years and in my marriage for decades, 20 some decades, I was a wreck by the time I got out. You have to retrain yourself. And the coolest part in the world is even though it's hard, it's possible. And so
Right.
what you're going to do with what I was just talking about was every single time you tend to get back into your same mode of, oh my gosh, I can't do that because I am whatever your situation is, respectfully, I'm 300 pounds overweight. I'm not smart enough. I don't, you need to stop your pivot right there and go, wait, forward, like cancel forward. That's it. And the cancel for you is, but what can you do? So I don't let myself stay in that trap of like, oh my gosh, like I have to, nope. What can you do? Go do it. What can you do? Go do it. And everything is burn the boats, right? You and I know
I
our
love burn the
wonderful
boats.
friend, right? Burn the boats. I burned the boats a couple times in my life, and it meant there's no way to go back, right? Like you have to go forward. And my pivot point again was taking all that energy that normally we are very conditioned to put towards people that have harmed us, towards our situation, towards where we're frustrated. And you have to tell yourself that is a huge waste of your energy. And I need all of that. And I'm going to put it this way to what I'm going towards.
Forward.
That was honest
Like,
to God, my biggest pivot of all the subjects we've talked about.
oh my God, people are thanking you for sharing your story, being vulnerable, to
Oh, sure.
connect with us. You're a champ. You're like John Assaraf. He literally changed my
Yep,
life.
I know him. Yep.
What an amazing compliment that is. I mean, if you guys are taking away some of this message, I mean, I hope you're taking notes about always don't sit, just going back to Dr. Michaels, put it in your calendar, take a break to stand up and stretch and do the thing, give yourself a hug, keep those shoulders mobile. And I can't even do that thing, but it's a struggle, but I'm trying. And from Sherry, this is like so many wisdom bombs. Never quit, Joe, and always forward, and don't look back. You're not going that way. And the pandemic, what are the good things from the pandemic? I know for me at first it was really stressful,
Mhm.
really shocking. The old way of doing things was dinosaur anyhow. So
Yeah,
I had to make a
absolutely.
huge pivot in my life, and I'm grateful. So it's good to see the challenge in the pandemic and the rebrand and the pivots that we've all had to make. And how is this working for you and not against you?
So when the pandemic started, I was like, all of us, I'm sure, I don't even understand what is happening. All three of my children got kicked out of college.
Oh my gosh.
So we were paying for 3 apartments. They each had their own place. I'm sorry, my youngest was in the dorms. The other 2 had an apartment. We have a home in Madison, Wisconsin. All 3 kids got kicked out of college. And luckily they were able to come home where I worked out of the house with all the things I do, right? And have a broadcast studio built in my basement. The kids came home and all 3 of them did UW Madison upstairs on the main floor. And I did all of my stuff downstairs. We did that for 6 months thinking, oh my God, like, I don't know what we're going to do. And then again, it's 70 grand a year for all 3 of those kids just to go to college. Okay.
Oh
At the
my
same, I have
gosh.
they're not triplets. I call myself a Badger mom, right? Because they were all close enough in age that they were all in college at the same time. And then my oldest went to doctorate, right? So we have all this going on at the same time. And I'm thinking, what are we going to do? But I'll tell you, here's the goal I knew. I knew that I have been through enough tragedy in my lifetime, enough super hard things. I couldn't afford one more. I'm sorry. I could not afford one more. So what I knew in grit was get out the door fast and now. So the very first thing I did when this was happening was I'm going to be positive. I'm going to be a leader out here. I don't know quite how to do it, but I am willing to run out here with my ponytail flying, trying to keep people positive. What are the opportunities? What is work I can do? I had already been coming a little bit to Florida for real estate and other things. And I just decided, I know I got to jump now, even though it's the last time in my life I can really afford all the college things, all the Wisconsin things, and in addition, double expenses down here. But I just knew I got to go where I can work, right? Then we had all of the huge, understandable unrest and heartbreak and all of these things, right? And we had 3 miles from our house, and we live in a nice area, burned out buildings in our entire downtown, 75 businesses there,
That's
and
here too.
55
4
were burned
blocks
out.
from me, I was like in shock. I was over
Yeah.
here like playing dog barking on my YouTube because I was like, "Don't come here." It was
Yes.
like literally right
Yes.
there, Santa
And
Monica.
at the same time, here's me. I'm like a huge humanist, right? So this was what I knew while all of that heartbreak was happening. And I'm an empath. So I feel everything everybody else has got going on, even if they
Right.
didn't tell me about it. Like I'm very intuitive. And so for me, it was like, oh my Lord, help me, right? But I just knew the greatest gift I can do is to be out here trying to make a difference in a day, trying to be positive. And at the same time, every piece I give on social media and everything I do here also keeps me going. I needed that connection with people. I needed to be able to help and have these opportunities. So in the last, we're over a year and a half now, right? I have never stopped, and I kept networking, and I kept on LinkedIn. I'm huge, right? So I kept on LinkedIn of meeting all these people, all this, whatever. That a year and a half later is what has brought all these business opportunities to me right now that's happening.
I love that.
And I've gone not, I used to be just, I was Wisconsin, then I went to Florida, so 2 states, then I went, oh my goodness, okay, I'll do the US because I can real estate wise do a lot of that.
Yeah.
And now I've gone international with both real estate and investors and projects. And if you would have told me that mom who got all 3 of her kids kicked out of college at the same time of like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? All I said to my kids was, you are not quitting school. That's all I know right now. So whatever anybody else's parents are doing, and it's not that you have to do school. It's just, it gives you an opportunity and we're going to finish. That's it. So you don't necessarily need college. For us, it was just, we're too far into it. We've paid too much expense. The kids work like you wouldn't believe, all 3 of them.
Oh, I love
We
that.
aren't going to quit and go, okay, yeah, well, now we can do this online business, because you can do great online business. And all 3 of the kids were always just bought in, they are from a family of just love, grit, sweat, opportunity, and they want to make a difference, and they believe in business, and they believe in science and healthcare and all these great things. And we just together kept going.
I love that. I mean, Joe says you're awesome. Bravo
Thank
for
you.
how you've turned your life around. I know if it weren't for LinkedIn, which I'm so grateful for, I wouldn't have been able to turn my life around. I wouldn't have met you and all the amazing clients and contacts that I've made on LinkedIn and genuine friends like you. Like I consider you so much more than just a contact.
Absolutely.
It's just the venue where you meet people
100%.
doesn't have to mean that it's just social media, because once you meet people on social media, you have to make an effort. It's like any other relationship in your life. It has to be give and take. And,
Absolutely. It's
I love
definitely real.
that.
I mean, so for me, even going through my divorce, like that was such a shocking time because, right, those were all the labels. I was a wife, I was a mom,
Right.
and all of a sudden you lose a lot of that where I was like, oh my gosh, where are all my, and we were a sports family. So everything was sports, and then that all goes away and you're like, oh my God, who am I? Like, who am I? Like,
Who are you without that identity?
100%. You have
Mom.
100%. And that was really painful for me. And that's when I really started to connect more so on social media. I've been on for a long time, but that's when I really started. It's real to me. So these are my connections. These are my friends. These are the people that I have met, people that I never would have met in a lifetime. Like,
we would have
I'm like,
never
are you
met.
kidding?
We're on
Right.
opposite coasts.
Yeah. And how fun. And I will also say, there's not any way I could have done anything I've done without the people that have helped and supported me. There's none of us really that are doing anything solo. Like you
Right.
might have to sweat and go through like I've been there, but I couldn't have made it without the people that graciously and beautifully held my hand while I was freaking out, right?
Right.
Gave me opportunities, helped me see different things, you know? And I want to say one thing of a pivot because it's your audience.
Yes.
One thing that helped me a lot from the physical fitness part, and this may be okay for some people and it may not. For me, it was I have to, because of that accident, work out every day. It just keeps me strong and it helps me feel better. But
Right.
my big deal was I was raised in a culture where women in particular, it was about what you look like. So way back, I was born in 67. My whole upbringing was the thinner you are, the better you are. So if you don't have money, you better be thin and pretty. That was the
That's
whole, right?
sad. That's
That was
really
I was
sad.
raised on that. You're nothing without a man plan, and if you have no money, you better be thin and pretty, right? That was just all it was. And I'm thinking, wow, I mean, I don't. When I went through this accident and had to get to this place of not, it wasn't working for me thinking about the poundage I was working with,
Yeah.
physicality of like, my big thing, which is a pivot, was when I decided I'm about brain and organ health. That's what I'm interested in. And most people
Right.
go, oh my God, that's not sexy. Like you can't sell that. Yeah, but
It's
guess what?
longevity. It's
That's
like
what
we all have to be a quality of life when we
it's
get older.
100% quality of life. So for me, this is the difference. I know that exercise, what it does for me is it primes the pump. So I'm no longer thinking about like, oh gosh, do I have to run for 30 minutes? Are you kidding me? I'm a rock star after I run. I have like the best ideas. I am so relaxed. I am so energized. I am so happy. And I'm not on the scale. I'm going, oh my God, what I just did right there, let me be able to every single day of my life at 54, there's very little I can't do.
You're not
And it,
old. Keep saying
no,
that's
but
old. I
I'm
don't
saying,
think
but I'm
that's old.
saying, no, but I
Robert
want
wants to know, where do you get that energy from?
so much of mine is internal. I love life. I love people, even if it is hard. So I may shock you that whether I was in that public housing project, my God, and people were breaking in with guns towards my mother. Can you imagine that? I was 5 years old.
I believe it. I grew up in New York. It
Yeah.
wasn't like easy street at all.
I was still a kid that when I wasn't in the midst of that was somebody that I believed people are good, even though I had people that were not so good around me. And I believed that life was still a great opportunity, and I'm thrilled to be here. So,
Life
so
is
much of
good.
mine
I
comes
love that.
inside of just, I really believe, yes, we're going through some hard things or whatever, but even the comment of COVID, my response to the year 2020, my end quote was, I'm sorry for the circumstances, but I'm thrilled for the opportunity for all of us to evolve. So I'm pretty evolved. I have a lot of things I can still learn and do, right? But I was thrilled for all of the ways we can wake up and be better people and have a better life and better opportunities. And we can get away from everything we put in the landfill because we just buy junk and all this stuff, right? Of like, it's an exciting opportunity time. And here's the other thing I've always been one where I want to live my life, period. Like, I don't know how long I'll be here. And if COVID didn't help the rest of society, which I already understood, I
Right.
might be done on Tuesday. I'm going full out every day. And that's just me. Like,
You
I've
are
been that way.
going full out. I love that. I
Yeah.
mean, people want recipes. They want to look the way that we do at our age, and that's such a nice and Joe really needed this message tonight, Sherry. You're a light that shines bright. There's so many
Oh, thank
positive.
you.
I mean, thank you guys for being the light of the nice comments and not the mean comments, because Sherry and I, we'd love to support each other as women content producers on here, where it's like, we're putting it all out there. Live video, it doesn't always go right. It isn't always pretty, but we have a message to share. And I love the message about the positives that have come from 2020 and all the things that were really broken in our society, and all the ways, like for me, I was operating in things that were like dinosaur like, and the privilege and opportunity to reinvent and rebrand and do it at any age. There's no age limit on your dreams. Your dreams are right now. Your life is right now. It's time to live it, and just write down some tips of any way that we can help you, inspire you to pivot with the pandemic pivot, and not just to thrive and survive, but to be better than before. Reinvent yourself.
That's exactly it. And I think one other important thing, you know, this privately, some details on the backside. The other thing other people may struggle with, that would be when you have had hard times, whatever they are, whether they are health or whatever is your situation. Sometimes we get into our neural pathways where we are so stuck in, we are used to it being that way. We expect it to be that way, even though we really would not like it to. Okay. And sometimes you finally get to the place because you've worked so hard. The pivot is also, can you accept if all of it comes to fruition for you? Right? Which might sound
Oh, I love
crazy.
that. Like
That
accepting it.
well,
It's like,
being able to accept it, like, so you know, I won't share details, but you know, like I'm at the place, and again, it's taken me 54 years to get here. Some people get here Tuesday, like it takes them 2 seconds, right? Where sometimes it feels scary if you have done the work, right? To get to the place where you have gotten yourself where you always wanted to be. Can you accept the whole cupcake? Right? Where
that's
sometimes
where
we
the
go,
self-sabotage comes in. Like
yeah,
you get the thing that you want and then you just mess it up because that's not your comfort zone. You have to reset your new normal, and the normal that was before, you have to break through that paradigm shift and just create a new normal and receive all the good
yes,
stuff.
because sometimes the feeling, which might sound crazy to some people, other people go, oh, I'd be totally awesome, right? Receiving and all this stuff. You feel like you want to run because it feels like, oh, this can't be for me. Like I have had like such a different life. Like what are you,
Yeah.
like things are too good right now. So it feels scary. That would be somebody who's experienced a lot of really gritty hardship or domestic abuse or whatever. What you're used to is it can't be this good. So the shoe's going to fall. Like, are we going to be okay? Or like, what's going to happen with the kids? Or what? Oh, I really shouldn't be here. Or this might be great for 6 months, then we're going to lose it all, right? And
Right.
the pivot is to go, it's okay. We're
I
going to fully
deserve
be
good
able to
things, right?
accept it, right?
You
We
gotta
can
say you
accept it.
deserve it, accept it, and take it in.
Yeah.
Like you said, people came to help. Like you didn't. None of us are an island. Absolutely nobody got here on our own.
Well, and
Accepting help.
I will also say to all of us, it is not like every day is phenomenal for me. So I still have ones where I'm like, oh my God, I'm ready to quit. I want to go back, or I want to,
Oh,
you
you're
know,
human. Me too.
I'm human. Yeah, yeah. But the other thing is, I think that what's important for all of us is to say it's okay if you feel that little bit of discomfort in your situation, and at the same time, because you're working on changing your thoughts, right? That other person, let's say, might be so beyond thrilled because they wanted to work with you and they didn't know you before, right? Where you're
Right.
going, oh my gosh, I have all these people who don't pay me when I do this work. And then I have to worry about trying to get my pay back, right? Or whatever it is. Somebody who's awesome in your life might go, oh my God, I am willing to pay you double what you just did. Are you kidding me? Or I've waited my whole life for you.
Yes. I love that.
Or the pivot is this. I will say this. I'm a think a decent balance between really humble and then also understanding. I have built myself with the sweat of grit stuff in character, right?
Yes,
And
you
so
have.
I have people who've known me even 5 years ago. I wasn't the same person. What's awesome is I have been able to heal myself and do the work so that I'm back to the happy Sherry and whatever after the trauma that I had. But also, I've built the last 5 years as a really smart, intelligent, grown woman, right? So I'm the 5-year-old, I'm the 17-year-old, I'm the 50, almost 4-year-old, I'm the whatever. And I'm proud I built that stuff because I could have chose not to. I could have been negative the rest of my life. I could have been pissed off at everybody, right? I have every legal right to be a victim, and I hate that word, the rest of my life. I have legal proof I can be that. That is not me, and I do not register with that. I never did, even while I was going through whatever. I was a target. Do you see the difference between the pivot? I wasn't a
Yes.
victim. I was a target of stuff.
That's a great pivot right there, to be
Right.
a target rather than a victim because of your response rather than your reaction. And there's another, Robert has another question, is broccoli the mystery of all your beauty?
Broccoli. Now, what I laugh about is I like broccoli actually. And I do have
That's your
broccoli.
secret? It's broccoli?
No, it's not. That's my secret. But Lisa knows. Here's me. I am fortunate in genes, right? So I got decent genetics from my parents. However, we can see by our 50s, people have made different choices, right? I
Right.
will tell you the answer to this is I have consistently made choices that I could have done the easier thing. So I could be eating Doritos in the middle of winter, which I used to like to do a lot, crunching them on the couch, right? We feel a little stressed. More of mine is just choosing. I want to eat as clean as I can because I want to feel good,
Right.
right? And so, and I will, it's not like I don't enjoy myself. So I still do sometimes have a decent time. But what's interesting to me is it is more obvious to people by the time we get this age, when some people have made the choice of every single day smoking, every single day eating, right?
Oh,
And at the
that
same
pains
time,
me when I see the people that have made those choices and where their health is today.
yes, but at the same time, because I know Lisa's clients and I love them because I'm huge hearted for every underdog and everybody is the people who have made the different choices their whole life of, maybe feeling different and it feeling hard right now. Any single moment you can make a different choice for yourself. So here's a great one, right? Water is like the cleanest, great hug and lotion you can have on the inside, right?
I'm drinking it.
Yeah.
I drink it all day long. I have my clients line up their water bottles like soldiers first thing in the morning because a lot of us do intermittent fasting and we have water first. And Joel says we're role models. And I really appreciate
Thank
that we
you.
have a nice crowd here of people
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
genuinely appreciate your vulnerability, your authenticity, all
No
the
problem.
positive message that you have to share with our audience about the power to pivot. This is the
Yep.
power to pivot. And I've had to pivot. You've had to pivot. Dr. Michael's had to pivot. And all of my people, I hope you guys are subscribed to the podcast. It's Whole CEO with Lisa G. I sit down with Dr. Michaels. I sit down with my guest from last week. I sit down with Sherry. We've released over 100 episodes of
It's
short,
amazing.
quick podcasts on how to pivot,
Yes.
how to
Let me
fail
tell them
forward.
how you helped me pivot on water. So water was my weakness. I was terrible. And I'm now in Florida a lot. So it's like 90 something all the time, right?
Right.
And I was like, I am the worst in the world at this. Like, how do I get my mind to think about it differently, right? When Lisa said to me, line up your soldiers, all of a sudden my like creative mind went, oh, I love that I get to have soldiers that are going to help me, right? Like, I
Water
love that.
soldiers. I have
I know
mine
water
right here.
soldiers, right? And that might seem so ridiculous, but that is exactly what was a pivot in my head where I'm like, oh, I love having soldiers. Like, this is so awesome. That's a great idea, right? And
Right.
that's exactly what made a big, huge difference for me. And so
Drinking
there's a great
water.
pivot, right?
I think it starts today. It starts with one step. We have people from Barcelona. Let us know where you're tuning in from. I'm in Santa Monica.
Fun.
Sherry's in
I'm in Naples,
Florida.
Florida. Yeah, right now.
Florida. I'm in Los Angeles. And thank you, Robert, for the compliment. And Joe. And you love broccoli too.
I
I
do
mean,
like broccoli though.
what I would say on the nutrition aspect of things, it's not what you do 100% of the time because none of us are perfect here. It's what you do 85% of the time in your lifestyle, in your mindset, your attitude is everything, in your fitness. Everybody has their couch potato days, but
100%.
what can you do right now to move 20 minutes a day? That's all it is. Just get up from your desk, put little alarms in your phone, get up and move, stretch your body, move your body, drink your water, and make one healthier choice. Eat one vegetable. It doesn't have to be broccoli, but we like broccoli. I love cauliflower rice, cauliflower mash. I love seafood.
So I would like to make the comment, Lisa, I don't know why I just feel like I need to say this right now, of just you don't have to move perfectly. So I actually talked to somebody who was really close to me from LinkedIn that I would
Right.
actually like him to work with you, Lisa. So I'm working on that. But
Thank you.
he was explaining to me just this weekend in a very private message. So I'll be careful so nobody knows who he is. And he said, Sherry, I feel like I am just feeling so bad about myself, which we've been there when we don't feel well,
Right.
right? Whether it's our weight or it's something mental or whatever. And then we beat ourselves up. So we put ourselves into the shame thing and whatever. One
Yeah.
of the greatest things, and I do a lot of work in personal development, one of the greatest things you can do is release yourself. And that's what so many people struggle with. And so it's like, go
Canada.
brush your teeth. So let's say you're, oh my God, I've been crouching in the kitchen. Like, I don't know. Go brush your teeth and go wash your hands. People don't think
Yeah.
about that, but it's like, that's your fresh start. You don't have to, people who get into the cycle, right? Of, oh my gosh, I ate so bad today. I'll start again tomorrow. So I've done so crappy. I'm going to, no, right in this moment, go wash your hands and brush your teeth, which allows you the freedom to begin again. You
One
get to
good
begin
choice.
again.
It's like you
Right.
can begin again right now with one good choice. Why don't you guys leave in the comments here what's one action step you're going to take today based on all this? How do you deal with depression and anxiety? Do you have any tips on that for our audience? There's a question here.
Yeah. So let me tell you a few things. This is, we'll just tell you everything tonight.
Let's just
My,
lay it all
let's
online.
just lay it all out. Right?
I'll take
Lisa and I
some
can do this.
too. I don't want to put it all on you. I don't
No,
want to
it's totally
be
fine.
the
I
only
am
one who's not sharing.
I'm totally fine. So Lisa and I are good at this. We can pivot and we can do whatever they need, right? That's the coolest thing about being decent at being willing to be live, right? You know, that's the cool
Right.
part. And I'm a master's level teacher. So for me, it's like show up and give the students what they need, right? Whatever it is. My biological father was actually manic depressive.
Okay.
So he was not having mental issues. And the sad part was, it was at the time in history where we thought crazy was horrendous. My poor dad got electric shock treatments, like
Oh my
down
God.
like you're going to kill somebody. A human
That's
does this
so
to you.
awful.
You get strapped down and they put electric bolts to your head, right? Of like, it's so my dad experienced that. And unfortunately, to cope, he started drinking, right?
Yeah,
And
that's
so,
normal when you're anxious. Like I've been there,
yes,
like I got to do this. Like people
exactly.
reach for alcohol.
Yeah, I totally get that. So that is who my biological parent was. And I was told when I was little, don't ever tell anybody about your dad because they'll think you're crazy. And
Right.
when I was a child, back in the 70s, you didn't talk about any of these things. So it was like, oh my God, I'm going to be crazy by the time I'm 19 because I knew my dad had a mental breakdown at 19, right? I kept thinking, oh my God, this is going to be me. Like, what's going to happen to me? What's going to happen to me? Talk about neural pathway retraining, guys. I
Yeah.
am perfectly
That's what
healthy and
Dr.
good and
Michaels was
whatever,
saying. It was
right?
like the epigenetics is the science of how your genes are expressed.
But it doesn't mean at times, because also think about the conditions I had. So I had
Right.
environment, I had biological, and I had everything. I had when I was younger experienced depression, of course.
Oh,
And
I've been there. Yeah.
I really hadn't had any anxiety up until we're going to talk about everything tonight. In 2016, I had a hysterectomy because I had stroke migraines for 34 years.
Oh my gosh.
And so finally the solution was to do that. And the man that treated me for 17 years didn't want me to know that. And so the entire time he told me it wasn't related,
Oh
that
my
it's
gosh.
not having to do with that. So talk about all this crazy stuff in my life. Anyway, when I did that, it was such a shock to my body that I all of a sudden had just raging anxiety. I'd never experienced it
The
before.
hormones were going like,
It was a total shock to my body.
yeah.
So why I share that is I had that and leaving my abusive marriage, both those two
Right.
times. I had such raging anxiety. I couldn't sit still for 30 seconds. I was a wreck. And I had to physically learn how to neural pathway retrain my brain
Right.
because it was all of my system in my body crashing out.
The
So I couldn't,
biological
it was
functions
biological.
causing
Both
that.
those two times were very biological for me.
Right.
And so that was like, oh my God, what's wrong with me? Because I am not normally this way for anybody. And I sat through domestic support group for 2.5 years after I was out, all this stuff. And you have to teach yourself to not feel on fire, right? Of like, I'm safe and not feel
Yeah.
triggered. And so I learned so much about anxiety battling through, they call it the dark night of the soul. Everybody hates that, right?
Yeah.
But the
The
dark
dark
night
night
of the
of the
soul is,
soul.
man, I have had it twice in my lifetime. I wouldn't wish it on anybody. What I will tell you is at the time I was going through it, I never thought I would make it through. However, ta-da, I'm proof you can, right?
You are here. And for me, it's also to exercise has helped
Yes.
me during times of uncertainty, of which I've had many in my life. I feel like I tend to be on the anxious side. Like I'm going to be on video. I'm like, oh God, I'm going to be on video. I start getting all, like anxious. So I turn that into excitement because I want to share a message. But I would love to give you guys the tools that I have of the water soldiers, Tommaso, and exercise and what tools helped you retrain your pathways.
I did all kinds of things. So I did every single thing you can imagine. What I decided to do was, it was hard at first because you don't want to read about being anxious when you're anxious, right? It makes you more
Right.
anxious. And at the same time, what I knew and what saved me was going on YouTube and learning every single thing I could about anxiety.
Right.
And reframing of everything I could possibly tell you. Reframing was my number one benefit to myself.
The reframe.
Of reframe. So here's an example of that. A reframe would be me, and I'll just give you examples, right? So social media, I get an awful lot of male harassment as well, and sexual harassment. I have had people stalking and following me, which is not fun. It doesn't feel safe. That can make you feel really triggered when you already have dealt with some of these unsafe issues before, right?
And unsafe. Like you just
It's
don't
totally,
feel safe.
yes, and it's not fair. But here's the struggle of reframe, right? Of okay, I'll give you a concrete example. So back when I was in Madison, I had somebody who started following me on social media and sending me messages at 2:30 in the morning one day, and saying to me, you know, he wanted to meet me. He knows where my house is, and you start panicking. You start going, oh my
Right.
God, like I don't know this person. How do I know him? And that afternoon at 3:30, I went in to get my hair colored. And 2 minutes after I walked into my person that does my hair,
Yeah.
he sent me a message and said, oh my God, I love that red dress you have on with the black tie on your waist and whatever. And nobody
Oh
had
my
seen me. I
gosh.
hadn't, right?
That is so creepy.
Yep. So that feels like, oh my gosh, here comes to the concrete reframe, right? So I get inside my hairstyle lady, and I right away text Faith Dye, one of my really great friends. A lot of people know her on LinkedIn. And I go, oh my God, like this just happened and whatever. She says, okay, are you safe? And are you, Mel's who does my hair? So I'm with Mel. She's like, let's reframe this. Can you see him anywhere? No, I can't. Has he come up to your car before? Nope. Are you going to be in there for 2 hours now? Yes. Will you call me if you feel uncomfortable coming back out of there? My friend Faith is saying this to me. Yep. So the reframe was, even though I could get this whole crazy anxiety story of like, oh my God, this man's going to be waiting for me when I come back out. Like, what am I going to do? I had to stop it in that second and go, okay, but like, has he grabbed you? No. Okay. Has he gotten the keys to your car? No, they're in my hand. Like, so some of it is this reframe to go, oh yeah. And by the way, jackass, you don't get to make me feel like that. So I'm taking myself back right now.
I love that.
And
The power. You took the
Right?
power back.
Right. And I'm very used to on social media now where it's like it's block, delete, right? Block,
Right.
delete, report. So we deal with all that. But that's just a good concrete example of
Of the
we can
reframe.
get
Like here's
this
the frame.
reframe is my
can
biggest.
change it and
Mhm.
and how you look at things. It's like I love that quote from Wayne Dyer. Like when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change.
It's 100% true. Are you here for my good? Are you here for my harm? Right. So when you feel anxious, another great one is right. That emotion is so close to excitement.
Right.
Some of
That's
the
what I do.
reframe is, I'm so excited about this. The other piece is learning to make friends with it, which might sound crazy, right? Where I go, the times that I have, let's say every single person in the entire world is dealing with anxiety now, even if they
Right
never used
now.
to,
Yeah.
because of social media and the way our world has gone and all of this. What we have to do is tell ourselves, you are safe with me. You are safe with me. I am safe with me, is what you're telling yourself, right? Whatever the unsafe is, if you feel like you're going to walk into a situation and people are going to be talking about what you look like or whatever makes you uncomfortable, right?
Right.
You, Lisa, are safe with Lisa. Me, Sherry, I'm safe with me. Who's reacting that way is usually that younger self that you didn't used to feel safe. But guess what? I'm not that 5-year-old anymore where I had no control of my life. I'm the 54-year-old who gets to decide. I am thankful for the times I have felt anxious because it's made me do things I never would have done. I never would have left my children and moved down to Naples, Florida. Never. I would have been
You
the mom
stepped
who,
outside your
yeah,
comfort zone.
right.
You just like all of life exists outside of your comfort zone, right?
A lot of times. And so for me now, I go, thank you for helping me feel that, but not sit in it.
Right.
Thank you for also letting me not be afraid of anxiety to go, thank you. I see you and you're not welcome here.
Well, Sherry, you are like so. I hope you guys are taking one note, just like one note. Leave a comment if there's one takeaway that you can take from all these wisdom bombs that we're dropping on you guys tonight. That if it's not overwhelming you, like what's one action that you can take today besides subscribing to the podcast Whole CEO with Lisa G?
Yep.
Because that's how we can grow is
Yep.
with people sharing this information that we're putting out every single week since December. So in 11 months, 100 podcasts. About the pandemic was hard for me. I had to change everything in my life. And because I was struggling, I knew everybody else was struggling. So I decided now is the time to release all these interviews that I've been stockpiling for
Mhm.
a year
Mhm.
and just sharing 3 tips. Everything is like, how can you pivot? How can you fail forward? How can you burn the boats? How can you just do one thing today? So leave a comment. What's one thing you've learned in the comments here?
Well, while you guys are doing that, I'll say one other thing on depression, right? So, I mean, I did experience a little bit of that on and off growing up. Some of it was situational, obviously, right, with things I was experiencing, but I don't experience it at all anymore. I don't.
Good.
And so what changed for me, and so I want to be respectful. There's certain people that it can be physical, genetic within you. And at the same time, there's certain things we can do, right? But so much of it for me was this doing the combination of personal development with the physical movement, not because I want to worry about my waist, but because I want to move the neural pathways within my body that go, I get to just get up and do this, and I can do it imperfectly, and it doesn't matter. But our brains and our bodies need to move, they need to rest, they need to be fueled well. And so one thing that happens, not in my dad's case, right? So my dad was, they used to call it manic depressive, it's bipolar right now, right? But if it is not that type of situation, then it is. There are also certain times when we are doing depression. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So how I do depression is I don't take a shower. How I do depression is I haven't changed my clothes in 3 days. How I
Right.
do depression is I don't talk to anybody in a day. So what I talk about is you're doing depression. You're in the habit of what do I got to do so that I make sure I don't feel optimistic today? What do I
Right.
have to do so I make sure nothing good happens to me today? So then I got to go, oh, not you. Oh, you can't talk to me. Oh, you're going to be a jerk. Oh, I can't, because I can't.
I love
Doing
that
depression.
that distinction of doing depression rather
Yeah.
than being depressed and just taking one step, just take one action and don't do depression. We've all been there. Come on. How many of us have been in the same sweatpants a few times in the pandemic?
It was 100% my decision in the pandemic actually was I refuse to have a day where I am not going to get up and shower and do my hair. What did everybody else do? They did the
Sweatpants.
broadcast bottom half. They
Yeah.
didn't do their hair. They didn't, right? I did the exact opposite because I have enough gritty background to know I am not going down this rabbit hole again. So I'm still going to get up so that I feel like a human, right? That was
Right.
very conscious on my behalf. We all could have had the excuse to go, we get to be slobby, right?
No
I go,
way.
I
So
fly.
who do you want to be in the world? How do you want to show up? How do
This
you
is
want to be
me.
a leader in the world? It's not in sweatpants.
Right. And so for me, I fly now because I have to for work and I also enjoy, right, some of it, but I have to, even in the medical part where we're all nervous of you're going to get it or what are you going to do? I have to fly. And so it is shocking to me how badly people look flying now. And
I
I'm not
know.
talking about, half the time, if you know me, I'm all about the bargain, right? So I'm dressed most of the time for $50. People have no clue, right? I'm dressed $50. I'm talking about you cleaned, you brushed your hair, it is amazing to me when you look at society in general, what a level we've gone to. And when I have not showered for days and days, it's so much easier to not have energy. It's so much easier to feel depressed. It's so much easier to go, why bother? So the Twinkie is just easy.
So get up and shower, you guys. This is like really good advice. It's like, don't do depression.
Don't do
And
depression.
where can people find you, Sherry? I know we could talk for hours, but we've been on here for over an hour. And I
gosh.
know that we know each other on LinkedIn. Is that where people should connect with
I
you?
am
Beth?
most active on LinkedIn. That's my favorite platform. I do a full range of all kinds of crazy things on LinkedIn. So that's my most platform. I am under my name on YouTube on 2 different channels. So one just Sherry St. Marie and another one Sherry St. Marie, brokered by EXP. That's my real estate company. I am my Facebook is just private now. So I've had a couple odd people. I do have a business Facebook that I will start using a little bit more. And crazily, I'm on TikTok. I do that as a creative challenge. So it's a whole different style over there, as Lisa knows.
I love your TikToks. They are entertaining. And she doesn't talk. She just like does like something crazy, but no talking.
I've been a professional speaker since I was 12. And so when I went over to TikTok, which I was never going to do, mine was just, I'm also very creative. So mine was, how many can I do and just not ever let them hear me speak? So
It's
the style
brilliant.
on LinkedIn is actually challenge my creativity. So some of them are very wild. Some of them are just a full range of surprise is kind of the TikTok thing. But LinkedIn is where I probably have my most substance, and able to get to know me and things like that. And I have 12 years on social media out there. So.
Well, you're brilliant. You're a brilliant content creator and vulnerable share. And thank you for bringing the awesome.
Thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it tremendously. I love you. I love everything
Love
that you
you
and I get to do
too.
together, and really have big hearts for our clientele that you and I serve, and a ton of just free give in the world. That makes us happy, right?
All right. Well, follow Sherry and subscribe to my podcast, Whole CEO with Lisa G. It's on Apple, Spotify. And thank you for staying so long. You guys are freaking awesome. I always read all the comments. I always respond afterwards because we're live. We're doing it now. But I will reply later. And thank you guys for coming.
And thank you for the opportunity to contribute. I love it.
Thanks for coming to Whole CEO with Lisa G. After over 20 years helping people lose weight and get fit, I'm so excited to announce that I found the missing link with my coaching. Message me if you want to learn how to look better, feel better, and go faster with a master. Lisa G at lisagfit.com.